girls with their nails done now.
Okay, we are going to take a look at your spine line here. And that is actually the same line. These lines are combined, the spine line and the head line. The spine line just shows little interruptions in there in the spine. So when I talked about, we'll talk about this in just a minute, about this anxiety and a little bit of depression possibly. First of all, we're going to talk about this spine line. And how this works is your spine is represented by sections. Oh, first let me tell you how we came about this just real quick. Kat, when she was getting her master's degree in health education, she came across a publication called Medical Palmistry. It's by Dr. Eugene Scheiman, and he talks in this publication about how your spine actually shows in your hand. And we've had a lot of people saying, well, what's my spine got to do with my hand, and why does it matter, and who cares? And, well, it's actually very important. And I'll tell you why. Because everything, and you know this, everything is controlled through our spine, through all the electrical impulses and things that run our body. And when we have interruptions in that spine, whether it's like scoliosis or we have vertebrae that are kind of turned out of place, or they could be damaged or injured or something, well, when we don't get 100% of that going, you know as well as anybody being a nurse that we just don't function as well. So Kat did a lot of research over several decades and confirmed this with a lot of orthopedic doctors and chiropractors and physical therapists. And so what we've done is we've come up with a chart that shows, and what you'll see is little islands like this show that you might have little anomalies. And generally, because that spine line actually looks really good, not a lot of interruptions, but you see these little triangles and stuff here, so that can show that you're maybe just out of place a little bit. So how that works is we draw an imaginary line right down here, and this is your cervical spine, that neck area. Then as we draw a line down here and here, that's your thoracic spine right here. And then as we get down here, that's your lumbar, and then down into that lower area, in that sacrum and coccyx, that little tailbone area down there. And you can see like these little islands right here and these little triangles. You got some here. This is a really prominent one, and that generally shows that you've got a good subluxation on that, which means that it's turned out of place. I'm sure you know what subluxated means. And you can see those in this spine line. Now, let me pull up this chart. We've developed this chart specifically for these hand readings. So you can see here your cervical spine in that area. And then, of course, we get down into the thoracic, down here, lumbar, and then down into that bottom part, the sacrum and coccyx. Now, what we've done is circled the areas that we see in your hand, actually, that show to where you've got some issues with that spine, whether they have damage or deterioration or out of place. We can't really tell what's going on there. We can just tell that there's something going on, so we've circled that. Now, if you go to this areas column, that'll show you the parts of the body that are affected when you have something going on with that, with those vertebrae. And of course, the effects all the way over to the right. And we'll send a chart here with this, so you can read these a little bit better. You can zoom in on those charts. So, as we take a look at your spine, looks like that 1C, looks like you might have a little issue with that. That's that little vertebrae that sits up underneath the skull. And I'm sure you're very familiar with this, with anatomy. And then that 4 and 5C, looks like something's going on with those. And let me pull that. See, this is that 4 and 5C right there. You got a big triangle there, and actually one on top too. So that 4C could be turned one way, and that 5C could be turned in an opposite direction. And they don't have to be turned out of place that far. I know the medical community and like chiropractic, I know they're always going head to head on how to take care of that. And that's why we usually suggest to get into a good physical therapist, because they're a little less brutal, I guess, on getting these back into place. But then it shows your 7C all the way down to your 3T, kind of right there, just above your shoulder blades. And then that 4T to 7T and 9T, kind of that whole upper back. Looks like you might be turned out of place a little bit there. Then we get down here and you see that 1L and 2L down in that lumbar region, that hip region. Then it looks like you might have a little bit of issue with that sacrum or coccyx. Have you ever had damage to your tailbone or anything? It kind of shows a little see, it shows a little triangle down there right at the very end. So that kind of shows what's going on in your hand. And like when we talked about that heart line, let me pull that image up again. We don't want to stay on this too long, but it just kind of let you know what's going on. Where you had that triangle there, actually a couple little triangles, and that was showing a little bit of stress on that heart. When you've got that 2T out of place right there, and it's doing a little pinging on that nerve or just out of place and causing an interruption to that signal coming down, that can put a little bit of stress on that heart. Makes that heart work a little bit harder than it needs to. Can create a little bit of chronic fatigue, a little bit of anxiety, especially where you've got that 1C out of place also. And that can cause a little bit of anxiety, depression sometimes. And we'd seen that where the end of that headline kind of dipped down a little bit. And especially where you've got that 1C, 7C, and 2T out at the same time, that can really get that anxiety going. It can really exacerbate that. And then as we get down into this region right here, you can see that's down in your hip region. And that can affect your digestive system sometimes. So that shows you kind of what's going on in your hand. And a lot of times when we see this, what we usually suggest is to get into a really good reputable chiropractor, or even better yet, a good physical therapist, and see if they can't straighten that out and get that energy flowing down through that spine correctly.